At first, the silence felt temporary, like the world was holding its breath. But by day 60, you can finally hear the truth. The planet isn't paused. It's moving on without us. And the first thing it lets go of is light. Day 30. A month after humans vanish, the electrical grid is still flickering in pockets, like dying embers in a cold fireplace. In some neighborhoods, streetlights turn on for a few hours, then die for a week. In others, a single substation hums through the night, feeding a small island of electricity surrounded by darkness. From above, the map of civilization breaks into scattered constellations, cities no longer glowing as one, but blinking, uneven, and fragile. Because the grid was never a single machine. It was a living compromise. Power plants, transformers, switching stations, control rooms, thousands of moving parts kept stable by constant human intervention. Operators balancing demand, crews replacing components, technicians responding to alarms before they became failures. Now the alarms still fire, but nobody answers. Week 5. The weak points start to show, and they're not where most people would guess. It's not just power plants running out of fuel. It's the invisible systems that hold the grid steady: cooling, lubrication, water flow, pressure, timing. In fossil fuel plants, automatic controls try to keep turbines stable, but minor issues compound. A valve sticks. A sensor drifts out of calibration. An auxiliary pump fails. A backup system switches on, then fails too, because backup still needs maintenance. And then there's the load problem. Power grids hate imbalance. Electricity demand used to rise and fall with human patterns, mornings, evenings, weekdays. Now demand collapses. Whole districts go dark because nobody is using power, yet the grid still has to manage generation and frequency. Without careful balancing, frequency drifts. Protective relays sense instability and trip. One station disconnects to protect itself, pushing stress to the next. A chain reaction begins, not with a dramatic explosion, but with a series of safe shutdowns that spread like cracks through glass. By around day 35, you see the first major islands. Sections of the grid that cut themselves off automatically. In those islands, power may continue for a while, especially near certain hydroelectric dams, or regions where generation and load accidentally mash. But they are isolated, unstable, and increasingly blind. Grid control centers run on automated scripts, but automation was designed for minutes and hours, not for a world without operators. Day 38. The city's rhythm changes. Elevators stop between floors. Traffic lights go dark and stay dark. Subway tunnels become long, cold throats of air. In the daytime, cities still look familiar from a distance. Towers, roads, bridges. But inside them, it's different. Buildings become hollow shells where ventilation systems have stopped, where water pumps no longer push pressure into upper floors, where security doors fail open or fail shut. At night, the change is harsher. On day 40, there are places where the last LEDs on a skyline blink out, one by one, and the darkness returns like something ancient and patient. Not total darkness. There's still moonlight, still starlight, but the kind of darkness cities haven't truly had in generations. Glass buildings turn into black mirrors. Streets become corridors of shadow. And suddenly, the loudest thing is the wind. Day 42. Fires begin to matter again. Not the controlled, managed kind, accidental fires that once would have been contained within minutes. A short circuit in a building, a small blaze from a damaged battery system, a transformer overheating. In the past, sensors and firefighters were the immune system. Now, even when sprinklers activate, water pressure can fade. A fire that should have died in a stairwell can climb the structure through vents and cables. The city learns a new rule. Without humans, the most dangerous things are the ones that were designed to run unattended. Week 6. The grid's last strongholds are the systems that can self-regulate longer: hydroelectric plants, some renewable installations, and a few stations with robust automation. But even these depend on stable networks. Solar farms can produce in daylight, but the infrastructure around them, transformers, inverters, switching gear, was built assuming routine inspections. Wind turbines keep spinning until lubrication breaks down, until a bearing overheats, until a storm pushes something past tolerance and nobody is there to shut it down safely. And then there's the slow sabotage of nature, subtle, constant, unstoppable. Leaves and dust collect on cooling vents. Birds nest in transformers. Moisture creeps into enclosures. Small animals chew insulation. A single compromised line can trip protective systems. And protective systems do exactly what they were built to do: isolate the problem. But in isolation, the problem becomes permanent. Day 45. This is the turning point. Not everywhere, not all at once, but enough that the world's night map changes noticeably. Entire metropolitan areas that used to glow are now dark continents. The last pockets of power cluster around specific sources, dams, isolated plants, industrial areas, until they too start to fail. You might still find a lonely streetlight glowing in a dead suburb, powered by a local feed that hasn't tripped yet. It looks almost supernatural, one lamp lighting an empty road, surrounded by silent houses. But it's not magic. It's inertia. Inside hospitals, the emergency generators that once meant safety become ticking clocks. Diesel reserves last days to weeks, depending on load. Batteries degrade. Fuel systems clog. And when the generators finally stop, the buildings remain, but everything inside is now just matter, slowly decaying in the dark. Data centers, too, become monuments. Their backup power was designed for outages measured in hours, not in the end of a species. Cooling fails, temperatures rise, systems shut down to protect hardware, then never turn back on. The digital world fades without drama. Day 50. Water becomes the next clue. Even before this, many cities had already lost pressure as pumps failed and reservoirs drained unevenly. But now, with power fading further, water towers stop refilling. Treatment plants run without oversight until chemical balances drift, until intake screens clog, until a mechanical fault stops the flow. In high-rise districts, the upper floors go dry. Toilets are still there, faucets still turn, but the system behind them is gone. Civilization's plumbing, its invisible circulatory system, starts to collapse with the electricity that fed it. Day 55. A new sound begins to dominate urban nights: animals. Not just rats and pigeons. Foxes moving down boulevards. Deer stepping into parking lots. Packs of dogs reclaiming intersections. Without headlights and engines, the city is finally readable to them. The darkness is a shield, and their confidence grows. You can sense it in the way they move, less frantic, more purposeful, as if they're testing boundaries that no longer exist. And then we arrive at day 60. By now, the always-on world is over. The grid isn't simply broken. It's fundamentally unmaintained, and systems built for continuous care can't survive in that state. Most large-scale electrical networks have collapsed into darkness, with only rare, isolated power islands remaining. The night returns to places that haven't seen it in a century, and the sky changes. Stars come back. The Milky Way, once erased by city glow, becomes visible above skyscrapers like a scar of light across the heavens. But the real reveal isn't the sky. It's what the darkness does to the city. With power gone, the city stops being an active machine and becomes an environment. Temperature swings hit harder without climate control. Moisture collects in sealed buildings. Mold spreads. Metal expands and contracts. Glass cracks. Elevators become dead weights in shafts. Underground spaces, subways, basements, tunnels, turn into cool, damp habitats. And every day that passes without electricity accelerates a different kind of takeover. Nature doesn't need to attack the city. It only needs the city to stop defending itself. Look closely, and you'll see the first outlines of the next era. Vines beginning to climb. Soil collecting in gutters. Seeds taking root in cracks that were once too dry, too hot, too disturbed. The darkness isn't just absence, it's permission. It invites the wind, the rain, the animals, the slow pressure of roots and rust. It makes the city vulnerable in ways steel and concrete were never designed to resist. By day 60, the world has crossed a line. The light that defined human dominance, our artificial day, has mostly gone out. And what remains isn't a dramatic ruin. It's something quieter and more unsettling, a modern city, intact in shape, but empty, dark, and beginning to breathe like a forest. And now that the lights are out, nature can finally see the city's real structure, every crack, every seam, every weak point. In day 100, nature finds the weak spots in every city. Those tiny openings become the first true entryways for the wild to start dismantling civilization from the inside.